Alright everyone, Cowboy Trades here. Welcome back to the channel for another update on Bitcoin and the SP 500. So things have been pretty slow in the past few days, but all that may be about to change as Bitcoin confirms a new breakdown and the SP 500 is about to confirm a move of its own. Let's talk about all of this and more, give you my price targets, focusing on the stock market first, then we will dive into a fresh Bitcoin update. So the main charts that we were looking at in our previous video for the SP 500 were these ones over here. We were looking at the DXY on the daily time frame take this massive tear to the upside. Looking at this fib channel parallelogram, you can see since our last video we got rejected on the 618, found some support in the daily EMA ribbons, and then we have blasted through the 618 Fibonacci, and it looks like we're heading up to the 0.5 Fibonacci. So I expect a little bit more continuation, about 0.35 for the next day or so. If we do manage to clear this 0.5 fib, then it is looking like we will have free reign to take an absolute tear to the upside for the DXY. And as we've also been discussing on the channel, if we do come over to the S&P 500 and overlay this same parallelogram structure, we put the DXY on the screen and then invert the DXY, because we know that the DXY has a strong inverse correlation with the S&P 500. We know the DXY is a leading indicator for the S&P 500. So if we invert the DXY, we're just looking at a strong correlation between the inverse DXY and the S&P 500. We've previously highlighted how the DXY tops out here, the S&P 500 tops out later. The DXY bottoms over here, the S&P 500 bottoms later. The DXY tops out over here, the S&P 500 tops out a week or so later. So we're really looking at the DXY being a leading indicator right now, tearing through some major Fibonacci's and looking like it does want to get continuation. It's looking like the S&P 500 is going to fall to the downside of this bearish fib channel parallelogram, while the DXY tears to the upside of this bullish fib channel parallelogram. So on this green line chart, you can see the DXY, or should I say the inverse DXY, is falling to the downside. And as we know, this being a leading indicator for the S&P 500, we may soon see the S&P 500 start to plateau to the downside. Now, moving on to this new pattern that we do have developing. Before I talk about this new pattern that's happening on the daily time frame, I want to look at the weekly time frame from a fresh perspective, other than what we've been looking at on the channel previously. If we do draw a fib channel from these lows up to this high, what you can see is that the DXY has been range bound. We quite recently broke back down, forming this fib channel at this low up here. And what you can see is once this fib channel was formed on this low, we pumped back up to the upside, right into the golden ratio, getting rejected underneath the 0.5 Fibonacci for weeks and weeks and weeks, and it looks like we're now starting to plateau and roll back over to the downside. So now we've talked about this new chart on the weekly time frame. What does this look like on the daily? Well, if we do zoom in, you can see since this most recent daily time frame rally on the S&P 500 back up to resistance, what have we formed? Well, we've formed a diamond top formation. This is a pattern that we've actually watched quite recently develop over on BTC. We'll talk about that later. This has broken down for Bitcoin. We are right at the apex of a decision for the S&P 500 right now. So the apex of this diamond top formation is on Friday, the 19th of May. It's going to be very, very interesting because, of course, the stock market isn't open on the weekend. So I think we have a major decision to make very, very soon. Now, we may close right at the apex of this on Friday. S&P 500 futures may decide to break down on the weekend, and we may see a gap to the downside on the S&P 500, or we might just decide to pump up to resistance and then come back down following Friday. Either way, we've got a decision to make very, very soon, and I think this boring sideways chop that we've been seeing for Bitcoin and the S&P 500 is about to come to a close. If we do take the price target of this diamond top formation and drag it down, what you can see is this could potentially mean that the S&P 500 could come all the way down to 3,975. Beautifully right down to support on this fib channel parallelogram, or just support from this touch point to this touch point, whichever way you want to draw from. So this would be nice to see unravel on the daily time frame, because if we do get a move down on the daily, we might start to see some of this macro analysis we've been talking about on the channel come into fruition as we do come back down to these lows on the channel. Now, if I do just quickly fly through some of the other charts and give you an update on what we've been looking at, the VIX, the volatility index for the S&P 500, is still grinding up since the 24th of April. We've highlighted all of the major grind ups and bounces on the VIX, and as you can see on the bottom of the screen, all of these bounces on the VIX have correlated to tops in the S&P 500. We believe right now, with the VIX grinding up for the past few weeks, that we're in one of these situations where the S&P 500 is soon to tank as the VIX flies from this 560-day support. In terms of the S&P 500 on the weekly, there's really nothing to update at this moment in time. You can still see we're watching this 5-wave asymmetrical triangle on the weekly time frame develop. We are sitting right at resistance right now, and if we do come over to the micro wave count that we've been looking at, we still think we're going to be starting a new free wave back down to the downside very soon. We topped out at wave C, which was also this macro wave E up here. We did have a major breakdown and a dead cat bounce, which kind of lets me know that, you know, this was the wave 1 breakdown, this was the wave 2 correction from a lower high. We are literally getting absolutely annihilated, just pressing against this resistance, not managing to clear it. And it's looking like, with some of these patterns developing, like the diamond top formation on the daily, that we might be squeezed to the downside of this very soon, coming down to this new wave count. Now, if we do come over to the 200-week moving average, what I think is going to happen is we're going to find a little bit of support around about 3,969. In terms of how this lines up with our previous price target, you can see this is almost, you know, right on the head of this breakdown for the diamond top formation. So if we come down to this diamond top formation, get a tiny bit more continuation, we can find temporal support at the bottom of this fib channel. This fib channel also correlates to the uptrend on this large asymmetrical triangle, at which point we'll have a major wave 3 down. We could see a wave 4 dead cat bounce before breaking back down to the downside for wave 5, and this could correlate to us retesting the 200-week moving average, which will be approximately round about 3,800. So all in all, for the macro on the S&P 500, we're witnessing a lot of chop in the lower time frames, but I do think that this is going to come to a close very soon. Now we are developing these new bearish patterns. So just wanted to give you a quick update and a new perspective on a chart that we haven't covered before. Let's now dive into what's happening for Bitcoin. So like I said, you know, just like the S&P 500 has been putting in this diamond top, we've already seen this breakdown for Bitcoin. Bitcoin was showing strength against the S&P 500. Everyone was talking about how Bitcoin has derailed. Bitcoin is no longer tracking the S&P 500, and we are, of course, breaking down sooner than the S&P 500 because we've been holding up better than the S&P 500, and that correlation is starting to snap back together. What you can see is we broke down from this diamond top formation. Our price target is still exactly the same at 24,500, but you know, as you can see, if we're looking at this chart alone, we obviously bounced on the 200-week moving average very temporarily, but then it kind of just looks like, you know, we didn't really retest too much. I mean, if we load up the EMA ribbons, you could argue, hey, especially over on this Binance chart over here, if I clear this up, we had a pretty much picture perfect retest of what is happening on the EMA ribbon down here. But here's what I actually think we retested before we are going to continue breaking down to the price target of this diamond top at 24,500. If we load up the head and shoulders, we've given you two potential necklines for this. Number one, we've given you the neckline, which is these candle wicks down here. Number two, we've given you another neckline, which is these candle body closes. You can see candle body close forming the left shoulder right here, and then we came all the way up, formed the head, came back down, candle body close, fully forming the head. Then we made that right shoulder, then we came down, broke beneath it, and it looks like we've quite recently just back tested this in the past day or so. We've broken to the downside, and now we've got this confirmed move. I wanted to come back and let you know this is really what I think is happening right now. We had a close in terms of the wicks right on support yesterday, and today we've broken through this support board, and it looks like now we are getting that confirmed rejection. The price target of this head and shoulders is down here at 23,500. So all in all, like I've been highlighting on the channel for Bitcoin, we've got a lot of confluence around about 25, 24, 23,000. There's just a lot going on in these regions. Let us not forget the mini CME gap that we need to fill at 24,800. And as you can see, I've highlighted some of my other price targets on here. We do have a massive CME gap to the downside at 20,300 and this massive bark pattern all the way down at 19,500. So that's what's happening in the lower time frames. I just wanted to update you. Obviously for the S&P 500, it's looking like we may get a breakdown very soon. For Bitcoin, we've already had this breakdown and it looks like we're confirming a rejection before taking that next leg to the downside. You know my price targets: diamond top formation 24,600, head and shoulders price target 23,400, CME gaps at 24,800. All in all, there's just a lot of reason why, at least in the immediate short term, before I give you a new update, I'd like to see us come down to 25,000, hit some of our price targets before we start, looking at oscillators, momentum indicators, and talking about, could we potentially see a bounce from here, or are we going to keep on heading down? That's in the lower time frames though. What is far more important is this chart that I detailed in my last video, the most important Bitcoin chart. I do recommend you come and watch this video if you haven't already. I basically talked about the fact that this is the most important chart in the higher time frames for Bitcoin. In fact, it's the most important chart for Bitcoin, period. Right now, if we clear up what is going on, you can see Bitcoin has reverted back into this major support box that has quite recently been flipped as resistance. So this is now a new resistance box for Bitcoin. If we then get rid of the EMA ribbons, get rid of the bull market support bands, you can see we've temporarily found support on the 200-week moving average. Now, we're absolutely sandwiched between resistance at 28,000 and support down here at 26,200. Bitcoin has a major decision to make within this range. If you start to see Bitcoin break beneath this 200-week moving average at 26,200, we are going to rocket down to these price targets at 25,000 very, very quickly, my friends. So I think the markets are setting up for a nuke. I think the S&P 500 is getting ready for a major, major breakdown on the daily time frame, which can bleed into the higher time frames. Bear in mind, we've got the DXY grinding back up. You've got the inverse DXY falling to the downside of the fib channel parallelogram, a leading indicator for the S&P 500. We should be breaking down very, very soon. Bitcoin is just leading this move. If you see Bitcoin break beneath 26,200, it is curtains. We do have a tiny bit of support on the EMA ribbons. The lowest the bull market support bands and EMA ribbons find support is, what do you know, 25,150. So like I said, my friends, in the next week or so, I want to see Bitcoin come down to 25,000, at which point we will reevaluate the markets, and I'll let you know whether I think we're going to have a short-term dead cat bounce at this point, or if we do reject from the 200-week moving average, are we going to have a major, major nuke? Make sure to keep tuned on the channel and I'll let you know. But at least in the immediate short term, let's keep our eyes glued on these price targets ranging between 25 to 24,000. So for today's TA, my friends, that is all I've got. I do just also want to quickly wrap up this video with a massive thank you to all of you. I have just hit 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. It's still very fresh in my mind, still very surreal. I don't really know what to say. I don't really know how to put my thoughts and, massive gratefulness into words right now. I was kind of like that when I hit 1,000 subscribers. That kind of only just recently settled in. Now I've hit 10,000 subscribers. Like I said, massive, massive thank you. Really at a loss for words on, what I should say or what I should do at this point. I only made my channel around about 14 months ago. I remember putting out my first video around about 16th of January 2022. The growth on this channel has been absolutely insane. I am still a small enough channel that I do get to read pretty much everyone's comments most of the time. If you do comment, I especially remember people who have been on the channel for a while. If you've been on this channel commenting for 6 months, a year, I obviously recognize all the OGs. If you leave a comment a few times, I do start to remember names. So I just want to say, of course, I do appreciate all of you who leave comments, support my content, share, all of that good stuff. It is a little bit hard for me to respond to every single one of you. I'm sure most of you understand that. If I'm not responding to a comment of yours, do just know I am, thankful for you commenting. I'm not ignoring anyone. I get tons of comments all over YouTube every single day. I get tons of tweets tweeted at me, comments tweeted at me over on Twitter. I get DMs on Instagram. I get DMs on Twitter, messages on YouTube. I have a Discord Discord, which I run, where I have a designated channel called #AskCowboy, where I get multiple questions every single day. So doing all of this, doing YouTube, doing all the other things I do in my spare time, a lot of it is very time consuming. So, you know, sometimes it's not only just what you see in the comment section of the one video you're looking at. I am swarmed with questions, swarmed with DMs. So, you know, thank you for your patience. Obviously, if I can't get back to you, I'm sure you understand. If you do want to ask me a question and at this moment in time, as of the time of recording, you want to guarantee a response, make sure you come over and join my Discord, because I can't always get back to every single comment. This is why I recommend come over to my About page, come and join the Discord, because I have a designated channel over here under the request called #AskCowboy. And if you do ask me a question within this, I will at some point get back to you. Normally it takes maybe a couple of hours, maybe it takes 24 hours, 48 hours. But if you do want to ask me a question about something and you want to 100% ensure that you are going to get a response, you won't always get that on Twitter, you won't always get that on YouTube. If you're in my Discord, at least as of right now, while the members are around about 1,000 or so, I will guarantee that I will respond to your comments. So once again, massive thank you to all of you. Really still at a loss for words, but you know, let's keep on grinding. Let's get 100,000. See you soon, my friends. It's been your boy Cowboy Trades. I'm out. Peace.